they have the right to vote in Florida. So everybody was, jumping up and down. We were all celebrating after the midterms. Then all of a sudden, the incoming governor started making a couple of noises. The Secretary of State, who had to resign, was making noises about, well, we're not sure that this can be done without implementing legislation, etc. Well, the bad news is that the Florida legislature is voting today to try to restrict Amendment 4 to make it more difficult for people who now can have their rights restored to have those rights restored. So we need everybody listening to take immediate action, because what you can do is to help. You can help make sure all your friends and family and everybody you know in Florida is aware of this, and that they're picking up the phone and calling their state legislators right now, because they're talking about voting on this today. And if you need more information, and I know you want more information, go right now to your Twitter as you listen to our great show and put in, at Florida voting coalition for voting voter restoration. In fact, let me give it to you straight up. It's called the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Go to Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, or you can go to FloridaRC.com on a website to get their website, get the names, the list of all those references that you need to call, and tell them to vote against any bill, any amendment, anything to try to change this important victory that we got in November. Justin, it's just a reminder again that no, there are no such thing as permanent victory. There's got to be permanent and constant vigilance to not only ensure your right to vote, but to make sure that the people who are in office are held accountable.
All right, so that's what's going on with this bill in the Florida House. What are you up to right now?
Well, one other thing before I talk about what I'm up to, because it relates to it, I am in Los Angeles teaching, co-teaching a civil rights course. I am the, quote, distinguished visiting professor at UCLA, practitioner in residence, because I like people who are actually practicing the law to come in and talk about and teach the law. So I am blessed to be co-teaching with one of the nation's foremost attorneys, and that is the
Barbara?
She dropped.
Oh, well, we just lost Barbara Arnwine temporarily. She was talking about the Florida Amendment 4, which was passed by the voters and is now under attack by the legislature. So during this November, everyone came in and voted for a ballot initiative on whether or not those who had been disenfranchised because they had been incarcerated would be able to vote or not, have their rights restored. And the people of Florida overwhelmingly voted to have those people's franchise returned to them. However, now the legislator is trying to enact a bill that would undermine that ballot initiative. And that is going on right now. So that's what Barbara Arnwine was saying. Everyone who lives in Florida or who knows someone who lives in Florida needs to call those people and let them know to make noise, call your representatives, let them know that you are aware and you're not having it, and that they're not going to be able to sneak that in there. So that's going on right now. We, of course, on Ignite and Change will keep you updated on the progress on how that all pans out. Furthermore, we are also going to talk about what Barbara Arnwine is doing right now in California, but we don't have her. So until she gets back, I'm gonna tee up what the show will be about for the majority of the show, and that'll be about the homeless mindset. Caitlyn Cobb is going to be joining us soon to explain to everyone what exactly the homeless mindset is, because this is a term that she coined based on her own personal experiences. But the reason why I bring it up and why it relates to what's going on in Florida is it sort of relates to recidivism and what elements need to be in place to lower recidivism levels and make sure that people have the.
Oh, I thought the Trump them snatched you. Hold on.
What it takes to help a person who was
Trump has released her.
how become a productive member of society. Do you have Barbara Arnwine back?
Yes, that's the little last thing you heard me say.
You were talking about being in California and your former home in Los Angeles, and how you were one of the someone who practiced law who was invited to talk.
Yes, it was teach with Professor Kimberly Crenshaw, who invented the concept of intersectionality, is also the head of the African American Policy Forum. And I teach every Tuesday, every Thursday on winter class, and I've been busy with a lot of students, a lot of faculty, doing, giving, doing, conversations, lectures, etc. But the other big news, Justin, I want to talk about is that this week, the African American Policy Forum on Law is sponsoring a series of events, including a big tribute to the mighty Aretha Franklin on this Sunday, March 24th, in room 1314 at the Law School. And it's going to be at 3 o'clock. And we really want people to come, and we're going to have free food, the whole event's free, and we're going to do a tribute to Aretha Franklin and show that mighty, beautiful documentary that took 3 decades to produce on her life. We also have 4 other events being held next week. We call it Her Dream Deferred, a real museum for Black women, 40 visits to Hammer Museum. Black's first one is a panel on Tuesday, March 26th at 7:30 p.m.
You're tuned in to Keeping It Real Estate. Listen and learn.
Second one is Harry's Political Wheel, about Harry Cousin, that is, Black electoral
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
politics. The third one is Say Her Name, the life and death of Ted Land. And everybody definitely wants to know about what has happened there and what's going on with the Say Her Name movement. We're going to have a performance on Thursday, March 28th at 7:30 of the Say Her Name, the life that should have been. And I want to be very clear that the Harry Political Wheel on Wednesday, March 27th at 7:30 p.m. and that also includes a play, a beautiful professionally acted play. So we want you to come. Where's the Hammer Museum? Well, if you're in Los Angeles, tell all your friends, even if you're not.
1 minute.
And
1 minute.
just to tell them that the Hammer Museum is at 10899 Wilshire Boulevard, Los Angeles. If they want more information, they can call 310-443-7000. That is 310-443-7000, or go to hammer.ucla.edu. It's also on Twitter at hammer_museum. These are the great events, just panels and speaking, and we're going to talk about this call that Elizabeth Warren made last night to eliminate the Electoral College. There's a lot to talk about, and thank you, Justin, for having me on your show. I'm sorry I disappeared over for a few minutes there.
Okay, and before you leave us, can you tell people how they can stay in contact with you on Twitter and on Facebook?
Yes, you can always reach me on Twitter at Barb73. That's BARBS73. That's my main account. And I have a secondary account called Barbara Arnwine, but I'm active on this Barb73.
Thank you so much, Barbara Arnwine. We will be right back with Igniting Change.
Washington, D.C.
Thank you.
Talk, 1450 AM, WO
Good afternoon, this WL traffic and weather update is sponsored by KFC. Also, Washington Parkway southbound, construction involving the new purple line. This is the right lane at 410. And that is going to slow you down from the Beltway once again. So northbound on Interstate 295, road work in the right lane is after Knox Avenue. And that's going to slow you down as you have from the NRL. DC 295 northbound, pretty heavy East Capitol Street to Benning Road, and southbound on 295 approaching East Capitol Street. Pretty slow as well. Bring home any one of KFC's $20 fill-ups with all the fixings and feed the whole family. It's finger licking good. Now your WOL weather forecast. For today, mostly sunny, high around 53 degrees. For tonight, clear to partly cloudy down to 34 for a low. And tomorrow, cloudy with highs in the mid-50s. Steve Hirschhorn for 1450 AM, 95.9 FM, WO.
You're good.
Where information is power.
Welcome back to Igniting Change. Call us with questions or comments at 1-800-450-7876. That's 1-800-450-7876. I am now joined by Caitlyn Cobb. Caitlyn, can you explain in your own words, what is the homeless mindset?
Yes, well, I define the homeless mindset as PTSD arising from any length of period of homelessness, and also the way we react when we're homeless.
All right. What are some of the signs someone is experiencing this condition?
One of the things is most people don't know if they're experiencing the homeless mindset. Other people will be able to recognize it quicker. Another thing for me is keeping everything in bags. And other people I know that have been homeless also have the same thing. They keep everything in bags even when they're not homeless, even years afterwards. And it's just a way that, oh, maybe I need to pick up and go. So that's one of the things, because normal people, we go into our house and everything's nice and neat and stuff, normalizing people that aren't homeless. But for a homeless person, I mean, they're carrying around everything in bags or suitcases or what have you, and so they just continue that habit. So it's really like the habits that you create while homeless that are actually destructive and that don't help you reintegrate back into society, which is why you compared it to recidivism.
Wow, that is interesting. How does the homeless mindset affect people who are involved in the lives of homeless or formerly homeless people?
Well, I think it's very important that people understand what the homeless mindset is when you're helping people in that condition, because it's very easy to be like, oh, they must not want help, or if somebody lashes out at you, it's like, well, they're kind of going through a lot. It's trying to look at somebody like as a human, and human beings go through things and have emotions and get angry, and if you're just constantly seeing the worst in humanity, that's going to affect you. And people helping other people need to see that, and we need to have more human-based resources rather than just here's a shelter, here's a little cot you can sleep in, you should be good, right? But what's the problem when they would never accept those conditions?
And for those who don't know, can you kind of explain how it is that you came to the realization that the homeless mindset was a real thing and that it was affecting you?
Well, for me, Barbara had me on the radio show before talking about homelessness. And after the show, of course, it's kind of like you think of a witty comeback after the fact, and somebody's already gone and you can't say it again. And so I was like, the homeless mindset, that's what I've been experiencing. And it wasn't just me, I've noticed in other people who were homeless as well. And it's just a collection of things that, I mean, the collection of, it is like PTSD, or it isn't like, it is. You experience, post-traumatic stress disorder, because being homeless is a very, very stressful thing. So I was homeless for the majority of 5 years in Baltimore and Anne Arundel County. And in that time, I was walking the streets all night, or sleeping on park benches, or trying to couch surf, or, having to like degrade myself, and meaning, think less of myself and do things that, like, oh my gosh, I never ate food out of a trash can, but that's an example, right? You have to degrade yourself to do that, or to beg for money, or even just getting help from like social services and things like that. It shouldn't be a degrading process, but because we look at it as so, and eventually all of this starts to wear and tear on you.
And then how does that affect you once you're no longer homeless?
It still affects you in little ways. Like I said, keeping all your stuff in bags, but then also your ability to trust people, or your ability to just leave somebody. If, things go too far, you're just like, okay, well, I'll just leave. Or your emotions. You can either be really, really happy-go-lucky, or just, you're also valuing yourself less. So maybe when you go to job interviews, you don't dress the best, and you don't understand why things keep happening the way they keep happening, or why you keep ending up in situations, and it's because you're still living like you're homeless, even though you're not.
Yes, okay, I was going to ask you, you touched a little bit on this, how does it affect employment with people who are trying, okay, first I'll ask you, when you are still homeless and you're experiencing the homeless mindset, how does it affect you when in trying to seek employment?
Because you don't really realize what employers are looking for. I remember talking to another homeless person while I was homeless and being like, McDonald's, they're hiring. He's like, yeah, but what does it matter if I can't take a shower regularly? And that's something that most people don't think about, because we take this kind of stuff for granted. And so taking a shower regularly, having the right clothes to go to interviews with. I was working on the Fontainebleau in Glen Burnie, and the CEO and everybody kept getting on me like, you have some money now, you need to go out and get yourself like more professional looking clothes. You can't be coming up here in these big old boots and things that just don't look right, don't look professional. You're representing our brand. So it's those kind of little things that you don't think about, or you're no longer paying attention to your hygiene.
That's important. That's important.
You have to talk in the mic. Talking the mic.
You are
Talking the mic.
When you are the person who's used to be homeless and now you have a home and you're seeking employment, how does the homeless mindset affect you then?
It still affects you because you're still doing the same things. Maybe you're not dressing the part like you should, or maybe you get frustrated and just give up, or like it still affects you in just little ways. The way you interact with other people around you, the way you see people, and the way you see your jobs and things like that. And valuing yourself less, that it might cause you not to have the confidence you need to really progress in a job or speak up for yourself.
Okay, now let's say a person was homeless, they're no longer homeless, and they do, through connections or just through sheer will, get a job. How does the homeless mindset affect that person's ability to keep a job or perform at the level that the employer is expecting them to?
Well, one of the things for me was staying up all night, insomnia. And it didn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to stay up all night, or you'll start experiencing nightmares. And it's crazy because maybe when you were homeless, you didn't experience them, or if you did, they were, like all the way back when. You hadn't experienced them in a while. But suddenly when you get a spot and your mind feels comfortable, suddenly you start experiencing nightmares that might cause you to stay up. Or you're used to walking all night long. I would walk all night. I would stay up for 3 days. So you kind of do the same thing and fall into the same pattern and start staying up. And it takes people like you and your mom and other people to tell me, like, sleep is important and you need it. Because you kind of tell yourself, like, food isn't important because you're not eating. Like, I say, don't ask somebody, like, do you need $1 or something? Ask a homeless person, when's the last time you had 3 meals a day? Because that's a much more powerful indicator. And it'll show you as well like a person walking by, not to look at them as subhuman. Like, we all take for granted that we have 2 or 3 meals a day, but I was eating like once every 3 days, and it was really hard. And I remember I couldn't get food stamps for little things, and then I finally got my food stamps card. I was so excited I could eat, and I ran into the Food Lion right by my college campus and bought myself a little cup of noodles, so excited I could finally eat for the first time in a couple days. But then my school was closed, and I couldn't cook it, and I just started crying. And so those things like still affect you. You don't eat regularly, so you're not at the top of your game.
So it's almost an accidental self-sabotage. Like, you're not trying to perform not at your best, but because you didn't get enough sleep and because you haven't been eating correctly and because you're not hydrating yourself, that all of this leads to you maybe forgetting whatever you were supposed to bring to the office. And it wasn't on purpose, but because you were still experiencing the homeless mindset, you just were not aware that you're not on your A game. You're not even aware that you're not on your A game because you've normalized eating 1 meal a day.
Right. One of the hard things for me too, going back to when you have a job and you're homeless, I was working like all the time, but it was really hard to like keep a job because maybe I would turn up late.
2 minutes.
Tell for, coming late to the work. And it wasn't until much later I realized, like, no, Caitlyn, that was insane to expect you have to get up at 6 a.m. to get to a job, but you live in Baltimore and you work in, the Arundel Mills Mall, and you have to take 2 trains and a bus to get there. And it's no wonder that if you're always in someplace different, that you're not getting to work on time. So that same kind of scatterbrain mentality just comes in. That's why I say it's post-traumatic stress disorder. It's something that's preventing you from living life, quote unquote, normally.
All right. Well, when we come back, we will dive much more deeper into this issue and others with Caitlyn Cobb on Igniting Change.
1 minute. Get 1 minute.
Oh, never mind. We have some more time. Okay, good. So, you touched a little bit on this, but what is the difficulty that having to deal with public service and the homeless mindset effect on like your ability to keep enough money to take the bus or the metro or just know what the time is when things stop running or start?
When you're homeless, you're kind of living on a 24-hour clock cycle. So it's like night and day just kind of goes together. And so it can be hard to then keep track of things or, like you're just riding a bus until it's over. So you don't really know what time it stops until they kick you off the bus.
All right. And now we will be right back with Igniting Change.
Good job.
Washington, D.C.'s News Talk, 1450 AM WO at 95.9 FM.
Here's the latest from Newsone.com, brought to you in part by KFC. Bring home any one of KFC's $20 fill-ups with all the fixins and feed the whole family. It's finger-licking good. A federal appeals court will hear arguments today in a lawsuit claiming President Trump is illegally profiting from his presidency through his D.C. hotel. Attorneys general from Maryland and D.C. claim Trump is violating the emoluments clause of the Constitution by profiting from his business dealings with foreign countries, seeking to curry favor with his administration by staying at his D.C. hotel. The D.C. Council set to vote today on whether to officially reprimand Councilman Jack Evans, who's accused of trying to solicit business from D.C. law firms that lobby the city government. News brought to you in part by Walgreens, looking to save on Medicare Part D. Switching to Walgreens may help you save on your Medicare Part D prescription. Walgreens, trusted since 1901. Talk to the pharmacist to learn more. I'm Rick Hoshio. When you're looking for news for Black America, go to Newsone.com.
Welcome back to Igniting Change. Call us with questions or comments at 1-800-450-7876. That's 1-800-450-7876. Caitlyn, other than pure compassion, what is the theory for why other people who aren't homeless should even care about the homeless mindset?
I mean, I guess it's more than just having compassion for like another person. It's that you can help somebody just get on their feet and become a more productive member of society. I have a song about that in which it says like, I have so much potential if I just had the chance. You know, you're looking at people and you're just judging them and saying, and we all hate like racism and sexism and stuff, just looking at a person and judging them. But we do the same thing when we see homeless people on the side of the road. And like that gets to homeless people too, knowing they're seeing the worst of humanity. I mean, if you're out there begging on the street and 100 people just walk by you or don't even look you in the eye, you know, that has an effect on you.
Okay. How does the social sciences definition of functionalism as the theory that all aspects of society serve a function and are necessary for the survival of that society apply or relate to the homeless mindset?
I think that when we look at functionalism and the theory that basically everybody has a role in society and everybody has a role to play, looking at anyone or anything and saying like, well, they're unfit, or just writing them off, or just telling them to pull themselves up by their bootstraps when they don't even have boots. It's like you're just discrediting them as a human being. You're looking at them as they're second-class citizens, really, and they shouldn't be.
Have any of the current 2020 presidential candidates spoken about the need to address issues such as the homeless mindset? And if so, in what way?
No, not to my knowledge, none of them have. And that's one of the things that like really gets me. That nobody really addresses homelessness or takes it as an issue locally or nationwide. I mean, Ben Jealous did in Maryland actually have something on his platform, but for the most part, most presidential candidates or even local candidates don't even address the issue. And if they do want to address the issue, it's like what's happening in Baltimore when they're tearing down abandoned houses instead of employing people to fix the abandoned houses and converting them to shelters and letting people move in.
What can our listeners do to help those affected by the homeless mindset?
You can go and donate to local organizations that are actually helping homeless people. Because a lot of shelters seem to talk a good game, but I've been in pretty much almost every single shelter in Maryland, and I mean, some of them are good and a lot of them are not. And so I know Christina Flowers for the Real Care Providers and Gloria Green. They're doing great work in Baltimore, and there's a lot of other great services. So you just kind of have to know where to look, but you can also, call into the show or contact us at tjcoalition.org, which is the Transformative Justice Coalition's website, and try to find other resources.
What would be your recommendation if you had to go back and talk to yourself when you first got homeless for the first time and you didn't know anything? What advice would you give to yourself to try to combat the homeless mindset from ever developing?
I don't think you can prevent it from developing completely. I think even if you're homeless for a month, it's going to affect you. If you're homeless for 6 months, it's going to affect you. And the thing about going back in time and giving yourself advice is, I became homeless twice. And you always think, okay, next time I'm going to know exactly what to do. But the world is different. The environment is different. People are different. And it's just a whole different set of things. But if I could go back in time and talk to myself, all of those things aside, I would try to somehow convince myself to love myself more and try to find good people and hang around good people and just really focus on working towards something better, seeing yourself as bigger. And one of the things that helps when you're homeless is also looking at it as a temporary thing. That's how I largely got through it, was this is only a temporary situation. And when people would be like, oh, no, you're going to be like this or whatever, or yeah, then you'll be like someone that's sitting here in 18 years. I'm like, no, this is only ever a temporary situation. So when you begin to feel like it's permanent, when you begin to lose hope, that's when the homeless mindset begins to take root even more.
Okay, and what would you tell someone who right now is homeless? What would you tell them that they could do for themselves instead of waiting for politicians and activists and someone else to come cape and save the day? What would you tell a person right now that they can do to help themselves?
Try to eat more. I know we want to save money to try to save up for an apartment, but in the long run, saving up for an apartment is not as easy as saving that first $1,000 or that first $1,400. It takes a whole lot more. Or if you get a place and you're only paying the $600, but then something happens and you can't afford it, what's going to help you in the long run is eating and hydrating and still trying to live quote unquote normally. And still having a sense that you're a human being and you still need to eat 3 times a day. And you still, maybe you can't sleep and things, and maybe you can't eat 3 times a day, but at least try to eat more. Try to value yourself and your body more, because those things affect you later on.
Wise words. Okay, what would you say to a person who is right now trying to help someone who is currently homeless? What would you say would be the top 3 things that person could do to have a real impact on the person's life they're trying to affect in a positive way?
1, don't judge them. Don't just look at them and be like, oh, they're just going to use this for drugs or whatever. Or they're just going to use this for whatever. There was a...
Are there any outreaches?
Are there any outreaches? There's...
WL1450 Barbara Arnwine.
It's more than just telling somebody, go get a job or go do this. You can take them yourself. You can actually give them those 4...
Excuse me? Is this a joke?
Empower them.
This is a radio station.
You know what I mean? Try to be there.
Okay. This is a radio station.
What programs or
All right, my brother. Peace.
systems did you wish were available for you when you were homeless that didn't exist?
One of the big things that I've seen lately is if there's homeless people on the streets and there's really, really harsh weather, in most places, especially in DC and Baltimore, they'll go and try to put people in shelters if there's really, really harsh weather. And that's something that I didn't really have too much of. So if it was snowing or if it was raining and just downpouring rain, shelters will still kick you out if it's just a night shelter. That means that you have to be there by say 3 p.m. in the afternoon, but you have to leave at 6 a.m. in the morning. And since you have to be there at 3 p.m., you can't really do a lot. And so, I wish that I knew that I could go to a senator for help. People told me to go to a senator, but nobody said, I'm going to take you. I think that's powerful when you actually try to invest in somebody and be not just tell them oh, go get an umbrella. But if you don't have money to get an umbrella, you can't get an umbrella. Giving them your umbrella. You can go get another umbrella. I know someone did that to me one time. Just let me have their umbrella, or let me have their jacket, or let me have their coat, or, whatever. And that was a huge help to me.
And what is the value of pulling someone out of the homeless mindset? How can that better not only them but those around them?
Well, I think you're less toxic when you're in the homeless mindset, not just to other people, but to yourself as well. Because you'll let opportunities just pass you by, or you'll hang on to a storage unit way past when you need to, or you'll continue holding on to this job that you can't even get to anymore when you have now gotten yourself a place. Or you'll not be able to save up money right, or you'll spend it on little things to try to get by, because that's the same thing you were doing before. If you pull someone out of the homeless mindset, take me as an example, right? I was on the brink of disaster, just complete disaster. And people taking an interest in you, showing you politics, showing you all that you can be, because you're so much more. And then I never want to exclude, say, a homeless, I try to say from homeless to here, I was just in Selma, Alabama, sitting at the same table as Hillary Clinton, And that was insane for me. But at the same time, if I was homeless, that could still happen. There was people at the 2016 African American Women in Law Conference who came up to me and said, I'm sleeping in my car right now. Like, I'm so glad that, you're here, that issue is being presented. And I was going to college and I was working jobs. And they can be your coworkers that are homeless, your classmates. So just try to be aware of that.
So you would say you're more toxic when you're still in the homeless mindset.
Right.
Oh, okay. So what advice if you were advising any of the current presidential candidates and on what their platform should be towards homelessness in general, and you only had 2 minutes to be in the room with them, what would be the number one policy change do you think they could enact that would really make a difference, or at least would have made a difference for you?
I think just putting homeless people at the top of your agenda, realizing that there's millions of people right now that could be contributing to society. And we could do something. We can give more people-centered shelters, meaning, you don't have to have a curfew at 2 p.m. Who can get something done? Who can go to a job interview? Who can work a job if you have to be there at 2 p.m.? You shouldn't deny somebody services because they go to night school. Like, that's counterproductive. So I think a whole revamp of the shelter system, and also a focus on voting rights for homeless people. Like that law that was discriminatory towards Native Americans and said that, you have to have a mailing address. Well, one thing that was not really talked about is that didn't just affect Native Americans who largely have P.O. boxes or don't even have addresses because the post office won't deliver to them. That also affects homeless people if you have to have a mailing address. And I think that's another angle that needs to be looked at. So those are 2 things I would tell them. Focus on people-centered shelters and, things that actually help people get out of poverty, not just a roof over your head. That doesn't actually, it gives you a roof over your head, but then what?
What experiences have you had with people other than yourself when you realized a family member, a friend, a coworker, or just a associate is experiencing the homeless mindset and they didn't even know it? What have you ever had that experience?
Yeah, it can be, for instance, I was at a panel with Barbara and a guy, a gentleman came up and started to talk to her about, because he was homeless and was looking for help and stuff, and she said, well, talk to Caitlyn. And so he talked to me, and so I've, followed up with him and such. And the first time we talked, he kind of was lashing out and such, but I realized that wasn't towards me. It was towards all of the people constantly in his life putting him down, or the people who told him, like, yeah, I'll do this for you, and then when the day came, they didn't do anything for him. All of that builds up, especially if you came from actually having your own, and then you go down to nothing. And, also, like, food. You don't eat normally, or also sleep. You'll want to stay up all night.
2 minutes?
And so there's a lot of little things.
Do you see any similarities to the way people who were formerly incarcerated are treated in comparison to the way people who have been or are currently homeless are treated?
Yeah, because it's still ranking you down to second-class citizen. It's still people who were formerly incarcerated have served their time. They shouldn't be held back from a job because, they checked a box. Or if they're already hired, they shouldn't be fired from that job because, oh my gosh, they have a criminal record, saying some things. But for the most part, unless it's like a pedophile trying to work in childcare or something, then that's understandable. But at the same time, people have served their time, their debt to the society. We're told a lie that, oh, they're serving their time. And once they're done, they're supposed to become a full citizen again, right? And then
1 minute?
they're just looked down on.
So what do you think the solution is for, matter of fact, how can people get in contact with you to stay involved with what you're doing?
You can follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/CobbCaitlyn or /CobbCaitlyn92. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Botsy, Botsy.
All right, we will be right back with Igniting Change.
Good job.
Washington, D.C.'s news talk. 1450 AMWO at 95.9 FM.
Good afternoon. This WL traffic and weather update is sponsored by KFC. 295 northbound. The construction is after Malcolm X Avenue. As you head up from the Beltway northbound I-295, you'll hit the delay right around the NRL to get through the work zone as you stay to the left to get by. DC 295 northbound, pretty heavy Pennsylvania Avenue to East Capitol Streets. Baltimore Washington Parkway southbound, the construction at 410 is in the right lane, delays down from the Beltway. Bring home any one of KFC's $20 fill-ups with all the fixins and feed the whole family. It's finger licking good. Now your WOL weather forecast for today: sunny, highs around 53 degrees, clear to partly cloudy overnight down to 34 for a low, and for tomorrow cloudy and a high temperature right around 55 degrees. Steve Hirschman for 1450 AM, 95.9 FM WOL, where information is power.
Welcome back to Igniting Change with Barbara Arnwine. I'm your guest host, Justin Arnwine. Call us with questions or comments at 1-800-450-7876. That's 1-800-450-7876. Our Igniting Change Game Changer of the Week is Prime Minister Caitlyn Bot for her humanitarian response to the crisis in New Zealand. And our social media follower of the week is at SA Braveboy. Thanks for your engagements with us on Twitter at TJC_DC. Now it's time for an extended version of our new segment, Sound the Alarm. Take it away, Caitlyn.
Okay, so I want to finish up our discussion on Instagram real quick and then get into the big news of the hour. Senator Warren's proposals to break up big tech. So first, let's continue talking about Instagram. So we talked about how Instagram is really, really important to you and how it's different than other social media sites, and all the social media sites are different from each other. We also talked about one way to gain followers, but how do you reach new people within Instagram?
1450. Can you get off that speakerphone, please? Okay, can you get off the speakerphone? I'm not going to be shouting to talk to you.
You often post pictures of you working to end homelessness. Search a hashtag like #EndHomelessness. Click on the most recent post of the account or hashtag, find a recent one with a lot of likes. Follow those who have liked that particular post. You'll need to follow 100 or more, and you'll begin to see results immediately. If you find you can no longer follow anyone because you follow too many, wait 24 hours, and then you should be able to follow people again. What you're doing is finding people who are already interested in what you're interested in and who are active on Instagram. You can also follow the accounts or hashtags you went to. If you want more women to follow you, then only follow women, and if you want more men to follow you, then only follow men. So that's a great and really effective method to get followers on Instagram, right from within Instagram, and you're reaching out new and active people who will be interested in. The trick with this, though, is to unfollow people in a couple weeks. So you wait a couple weeks and then you unfollow people, or the people you don't want to follow, because you might be surprised and you might follow people since they're into what you're into. Wow, this account posts really good stuff. So you just have to go through, again, another tedious process, unfollowing people. And you wait a couple weeks because you don't want people to catch on real quick. And the reason people follow you back is because most people don't have 5,000, followers, or a whole, or even 1,000. Most people have their little group of friends. So when you follow them, they want to check out your post, and they'll probably follow you back. So that's one great way. So now let's move on to Senator Warren's bill to break up big tech. Now, Senator Warren's, well, not her bill, her proposal if she becomes elected in 2020. That's a very important key point that I think a lot of articles and interviews and things kind of gloss over. It's if she becomes elected. So it's not something that she's introducing to the Senate right now. It's if she becomes elected. And basically what it is breaking up the monopoly power that big tech companies have. And big tech companies she defines as Facebook, Google, Apple. Facebook, Google, and Apple and Amazon are the big four because they control such a large amount. And in her Medium article, she talks about how Microsoft used to want to control all we did, used to want to control how we searched on the internet. And the government actually sued them. And the government won. And that kind of built the basis for, no, even in tech, we have monopoly laws, we have antitrust
WL
laws.
1450?
We can't just break them. So her platform is really about, and again, it's a platform, is really about, she's made big tech her issue, which is
And where you
smart
calling
because
from?
other people forget about the little scandals. And now we're talking about big tech. And now all the other candidates are being found
Mo.
the position.
Oh, we have a caller.
Mo.
Yeah, I have a nephew that I think but I know he's choosing to be homeless because I mean his dad's pretty wealthy, and his mom's still around, and he has the nucleus and help that he, that's necessary to not be homeless. So how do you? I mean, when you're dealing with someone like that, when you have a way out, and
Gotta let it take its course.
you can't help somebody like that unless just from talking to them and praying with them. But as far as giving them something, or it's so I think that's a part of homelessness that people don't speak about. People that choose to or want to be that way, because it is a way of you don't have to worry about going to work, you don't have to worry about bills, you don't have to worry about what regular people worry about. So I always say there's a positive and negative in everything. So yeah, I just wanted to hear her. And how long did it take for you to become homeless? Did it happen? I know it's a different time frame for different people, but I mean, I always say we're all 2 or 3 paychecks away from being homeless. But I'm just wondering,
Okay, well, let's start with the question.
Yeah.
The question was, how long did it take for you to become homeless?
Well, my case was a bit interesting. See, I was adopted, and I was going to be kicked out anyway in 2010 to go with my adoptive dad, who I hadn't spoken to, since I was 13, because we had a big fight. And so for me, it kind of really happened overnight. So I chose to instead leave rather than be kicked out, because I knew that if I was kicked out to the middle of nowhere in New York, then I would probably have to no longer be a senior in high school, and I would be in the middle of nowhere. And he had just kicked, his stepdaughter out, and so if I was kicked out up there, it's really cold in upstate New York, and so I decided to leave. So it kind of just happened overnight. And then the second time I became homeless, when I went back to my adoptive mother's house, that also just happened overnight. I woke up one morning and she said, I want you out. You have a half hour to get your stuff, and then you need to leave. And so I did. So for me, it kind of happened suddenly.
Did she give you a reason or anything? I mean, did you have a chance to rebut and say, hey, can I just have maybe a week or so to get myself together? I don't want to die out on the street.
I mean, the reason was because she didn't want me emailing guys or talking to guys online on the computer she had bought me for school. But I was emailing a guy I liked in my college math class on my student email. She went through my notebooks because I love to write. She went through my school notebooks, saw I was passing notes with him in class, and thought that I wasn't going to class regularly, that I was skipping class, which I had all A's. And you can't get all A's in college if you skip class. And based off me emailing him, that was her basis for kicking me out. Now, we had a really rocky relationship.
4 minutes.
And to answer your other question, yes, that is an issue too. I used to see kids, usually younger, that would have well-to-do parents, but would be on the streets. And that was one of the criticisms lobbed at them. And I don't think that people really understand how that affects you choosing to be homeless. But at the same time, I know one girl was homeless because her dad was never home and she didn't want to be in the house alone. So she'd rather be with her friends at night. And so she would only go to the house when her dad was home. But her dad had to work a lot and was a single parent and was rarely ever home. So it's also, what is your nephew's situation? And so maybe you can get to the root of the cause. Like, what is the situation? Like, why are you choosing me?
3 minutes.
Because it's kind of the nuclear option.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, I think, like I said, because he has a way out, I think his root cause is ultimately he's choosing to be that way. And like I said, you don't have any.
But I mean, everybody has their own little wars that go on in their head, and it's just about listening to another person and being like, okay, why are you choosing this? What's really going on? Because that's a nuclear option. You don't just wake up one day and be like, okay, I'm gonna go out on my own. It takes time, and maybe things aren't so peachy at home. But even if they are, there's always a reason. And I would just try to listen to it.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely a reason. I mean, he had that mentality at a younger age. I mean, even because his mom.
2 minutes. Thank you, so y'all can wrap up.
He lived with his mom in not that that's the neighborhood, but his dad lived in an affluent neighborhood, and he took him in and gave him his own room and everything. But after a week or so, he was like, man, this is like.
And once again, that's kind of what we're talking about with the homeless mindset. That's one of the things with the homeless mindset we didn't get into today. But I know that we have to wrap up. So if you would like to contact me, you can contact me on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. And on Facebook, it's facebook.com/Cobb, COBB, Caitlyn, CAITLYN. And we can follow up and discuss this more.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for your call. And we will be back next week, Tuesday from noon to 1, and you can listen in, and we may be able to continue this conversation later. Okay, so Caitlyn, do you want to, we didn't get to finish the extended version because we were happy to have a call in. Do you want to just leave off on the proposal of Elizabeth Warren's tech breakup?
So basically it's not really breaking up big tech. She just doesn't want Google to be able to sell its own thing to compete with other things. She really wants to make it so that competition can thrive, rather than as if Microsoft had gotten their way, we would all be using Bing and we wouldn't have Google. So she wants that innovation to start again instead of the 4 big tech companies ruling everything and having such a big monopoly. So.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks again to Barbara Arnwine. If you want to contact Barbara, you can contact her at Barbs, BARBS73 on Twitter. You can contact Caitlyn on Twitter at
the Caitlyn Bot.
At the Caitlyn Bot. And you can see us on YouTube at youtube.com/Botsy, BOTSY. Igniting change.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Good job.
Hi. I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
Well, before I left my campsite, I was putting out my fire, and out
Good
of
job.
nowhere, some bear showed up and hugged